the people. So tonight, we invite you to listen, engage, and share, because your feedback will help shape the policies and programs that move our nation forward. At this time, I'll kindly ask you to stand for the playing of the national anthem, followed by a word of prayer by our Acting Financial Secretary, Carlton Poxon.
Oh, land of beauty, our country where peace abounds, thy children stand free on the strength of will and love, with good in all our schools, Saint Kitts and Nevis. A nation bound together with a common destiny. As stalwarts we stand for justice and liberty, with wisdom and truth. We will serve and honor thee. No sword nor spear can conquer, for God will sure defend. His blessing shall forever to posterity extend.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we want to give you thanks. Lord, we bow and we give you praise. Lord, we thank you for taking us through the day. And God, even now as we pause as a nation, as we pause as a people to reflect, to prospect, Lord, we pray that you would grant us wisdom. You'll grant us direction. And Father, we pray that all that would happen this evening will go to your honor and your glory. In your Son name we pray. Amen,
Amen.
and amen.
Please be seated. Allow me to introduce the head table. We have the Acting Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, the Honorable Marsha Henderson, Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Samuel Duggins, Minister of the Creative Economy and Entrepreneurship. We have the Honorable Senator Dr. Joel Clark, Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment, Climate Action, Constitutional Empowerment, and the Acting Financial Secretary, Carlton Poxon, and myself, Sherma Matthew, your moderator for this evening. As moderator for this evening's consultation, I again extend a warm welcome to all who have joined us. This evening's presentations will touch on three critical areas of national transformation: the circular economy, tourism, and the creative economy. Each plays a key role in advancing our sustainable island state agenda, ensuring that economic growth goes hand in hand with inclusion, innovation, and environmental responsibility. But before we move into our feature presentations, we will take a moment to visually reflect on how far we've come on this journey toward a sustainable island state.
In 2022, the concept of transforming St. Kitts and Nevis into a sustainable island state was presented by our Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Stroh. The idea comes from an understanding of the need to holistically address the way we perceive and engage our vulnerabilities and our assets, and the way we safeguard our future as a coastal nation. We are aware of the narrative of vulnerability connected to our existence as small island developing states. However, in the spirit of progression, we have decided that it is high time we transcend these limitations and take ownership of our survival. We are adapting and we are leading. The Sustainable Island State Agenda is the vehicle that will tailor our methods of development and move us in a positive direction towards a future that is climate smart, investment ready, and economically inclusive. Our vision has been clearly set: build a thriving, green, climate resilient St. Kitts and Nevis that prioritizes the improvement of the lives of our people and protects our natural heritage. Thus, CISA is a people-centered movement. It is one that recognizes development as a household enterprise and understands that sustainability incorporates all levels of society, starting with protecting the future of those most vulnerable. To encompass this spirit, we have divided our vision into 7 action areas called the Pillars of Progress: energy transition, water security, food security, sustainable industries, sustainable settlements, the circular economy, health and social protection. Through this green print for success, we can ensure action that is targeted, fulsome, and directly addresses the varied needs across, propelling force forward. However, for the highest impact, investments must be made with a clear purpose. We must strike the balance between economic opportunity and environmental responsibility. Reconnecting our pillars of progress, we can clearly determine the best use of our investments. Let's consider energy transition, for example. Geothermal exploration in Nevis provides are able to protect our citizens and residents. A strong legislative agenda protects investments and ensures that we are aligned with international treaties and obligations. In the area of green infrastructure, as a sustainable island state, shock resistance and weatherproof are key. Let's consider sustainable agriculture and the blue economy. A sustainable island state must be food secure and must ensure production and marine resource fisheries protection. In considering circularity and waste to resource systems, investment must support utilizing waste to support the investments that accelerate our productivity and functionality as a nation. Let's consider investments in smart, green technology that can upscale our environmental monitoring systems and build our data procurement and management capacities. Education in advancing quality of life and ensuring that legacy making is a possibility for all. For ecotourism and heritage protection, investing in the promotion of our island through sustainable means and displaying our heritage by authentic, close-to-earth experiences allows us to share our unique products with the world while retaining roots that are indigenous to our people. A critical element to the conversation is securing partnerships that power change. Investment is a collaborative undertaking. Action can only elicit maximum impact when we partner toward our common cause. When we channel our economic drive and combine the financial with the sociocultural, we create a space where the possibilities in partnership become limitless. Through the linkage of partnership and investment, we can tap into maximum impact. So, what does impact look like for now and the future? Impact right now may look like a slow yield because we're building a legacy that will span generations. If we pan outward and upward for an aerial view, impact looks like a place where all individual needs are met. where homes and businesses and communities are powered by reliable, clean energy and can withstand a changing climate, where we are nourished by homegrown produce and products, where water is a 24/7 resource for all, made possible by renewable sources, where inclusivity and equality across backgrounds and abilities are ways of life, where circularity and zero waste initiatives drive economic prosperity, where tourism is resilient, year-round, and community-led, where a thriving orange economy allows our creatives and artists to produce purposefully and profitably. So, we remain undaunted by the length of the journey. Instead, we are guided by the possibilities that are within our grasp should we stay the course. Although, while we look ahead to the potential and purpose that large-scale investment opportunities bring, we must never forsake the power of the individual investment, the ones that we as a people choose to make for ourselves and our own environment. Those seemingly isolated choices that we make all interlink to create a stronger, sustainable island state. Our individual investments on the journey towards sustainability may look like choosing not to litter, ensuring that we take our plastic bags on grocery runs, conserving our resources, exploring at-home gardening, volunteering our time and knowledge, and even donating to worthy causes. These seemingly mundane, unassuming habits inform the bigger movements, because investments have a greater chance of success when you commit to and believe in your product. It stands to reason that a sustainable island state and a successful seesaw start with us first. So I invite you to act. With our Sustainable Island State agenda, we are proving that size does not limit ambition. We believe in our seesaw, in the power of our people, and in the potential of partnership. And we invite you to believe with us, not only in what we can build, but in the impact that we can achieve when we work together with intention.
We now move into our feature presentations, beginning with The Circular Economy by the Honorable Dr. Joy L. Clark.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Constituency 5, to Sandy Point. And thank you so much for joining us here for our National Budget Consultations 2025, something that we as a Labour administration government has made a commitment to do, which is consult with our communities ahead of the presentation of our national budget. Allow me, of course, to greet the head table, Deputy Prime Minister, other members of Cabinet, the FS, of course, our host, and our guests, including our Head of Civil Service and other senior PSs and permanent secretaries who are here with us, and, of course, members of the general public. And most importantly, the Ministry of Finance, spearheaded by our Acting Financial Secretary, Mr. Carlton Paxson, and his team, who have been instrumental in getting us here to this point of having budget consultations again for 2025. This evening, my task is very particular. It's about the circular economy, which in the simplest sense is how we look at garbage and making more of the waste that we dispose. So before I go into my very, very brief presentation, I want to start with a promotional video, our educational video that we composed as the Ministry of Environment some a year and a half ago, before we started talking very intensely about waste, waste management, and circular economy. So we'll start with very short clips. Sustainability is really about people, the planet, and partnership, and how we can do our part together in St. Kitts and Nevis to protect the environment in which we depend on. It's about working together to keep the environment clean. It's learning more together about the necessary steps that are needed for sustainability, and importantly, it's how our actions can address climate change.
Sustainability from a waste management standpoint speaks to the practice of managing waste in a way that minimizes its impact on our environment, on our health, and on our resources. So fundamentally, it involves policies, strategies, practices that prioritize waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and proper disposal.
Efficiently. While protecting the health and diversity of our ecosystems, we can create a thriving economy where Kittitians have access to affordable housing, they live in well-serviced communities, have access to locally grown foods, clean energy, clean water. We basically can enjoy, along with people visiting our island, our natural beauty and our cultural heritage for generations to come.
Thanks so much to the tech team for those interventions. And these clips in particular, the intervention from the General Manager of Solid Waste Management Corporation, SC, standing in front of one of our plastic cells. I don't know when last any of you have visited the landfill, but if you haven't, it would be good to take a visit to see what's happening there. It's not a dump, it's organized, but what is true about the landfill is that we have a lot more waste than we can manage here in St. Kitts. What is also true is that we have too little waste in St. Kitts to make it extremely productive. And I share that to say that when we think of the circular economy, we're thinking of how do we reconsider the waste that we generate. And this is the key aspect of one of the key pillars of our sustainable island state agenda. And no, every time we think of waste, it's just something that we need to get out of our house, we dump it in a bag, and we don't want to interact with it. But the circular economy requires that we rethink how we deal with our waste. Now I'm gonna ask questions, you don't have to raise your hand, you don't have to answer, but answer in your mind. How many of us in our waste, put in our waste food, plastic bottles, and tin containers in the same bag? How many of us have challenges with, let's say, waste having terrible smell? How many of us put the cuttings from our yard in our garbage and put them out for solid waste to collect? Or how many of us have businesses and we put our waste out for collection along with domestic waste? These are some of the practices that we have to reconsider if we want to move towards a circular economy, which is recycling, reusing, and regenerating our waste. We have to be innovative, we have to be creative, and we have to think about, importantly, how can waste be a source of revenue generation? It's important to note that our conversation here tonight isn't random. Our global goals, the SDGs, speak specifically to a healthy, clean planet, to a healthy, clean marine environment, and also this is connected to what we call our National Development Planning Framework, which is guiding what St. Kitts and Nevis does from now until 2037. And this framework is essentially the guide for every ministry, every statutory body to determine what are the most strategic, what are the most systematic, and what are the most collaborative ways to plan your department or your ministry. And then this, of course, is connected to our sustainable island state agenda, which we have our investment priorities, a promotional and partnership approach for the world to partner with St. Kitts and Nevis. In practice, the circular economy, it's, as I mentioned, it's thinking differently about your waste. It's being willing to be intimate with your waste. In my household in particular, we do not mix food waste with regular waste. It preserves your waste for longer, because you know most of us have just 1 week of garbage collection. If you have food waste in your garbage, it limits what you can do with the waste, and it also means you're gonna have problems with rodents, you're gonna have problems with flies, you're gonna have problems with the scent. And the workers who collect the waste are also going to have problems with it. So we want to think about each other when we're dealing with waste. Now, it's important for us to think of how can we maximize resource. In some countries, every single piece of waste is reusable. There are countries that use the scrap metal that we have on the landfill. It's turned into a full piece of reusable material with revenue. In some cases, it's clothing. How many of us have too much clothes that we just don't know what to do with? We don't have the time to sort through it, or we don't have a policy of 1 in, 2 out, which means every time you buy a new piece of clothing, you get rid of 2. But these are things that we have to think about if we're going to have a revenue generation from the landfill and from our waste, getting rid of what we don't use. Additionally, it's how we redefine development. Now, the ministry, along with the Ministry of Energy, we've been having serious conversations about waste to energy. Do we generate enough waste to have a thriving waste to energy sector? Can we find models in the Caribbean? For example, in Bermuda, they closed their landfill. I hope I'm using the right country, but forgive me if it's the wrong country because it's been a long, long day and a long, long week. They were bold enough to close their landfill, and there are other countries in the Caribbean which have done the same. Now, do you know what that means, closing a landfill? There's no garbage truck coming to collect bags of waste all coupled together. It means we actively have to participate in sorting at the source. It means you're putting your garbage or your waste rather in blue, green, white bins. And then there are different days for collection of these items. And then they're taken to different sorting facilities. And then persons who can create micro enterprises from the waste can take them and move on and have thriving businesses with them. In India in particular, they're known for having like a really innovative, creative revenue generation economy out of waste. Nothing goes to waste. And that's where we want to get. Transparently, that's why I've invited you to visit the landfill. We've passed, I think it has expired, its use has expired about 5 years ago. We have generated too much waste for the landfill. But what do we do? Is there a community that would be open to having a landfill outside of Connery where it exists? How would you feel if we said, we're coming to your village to establish a landfill? Nobody wants to deal with waste because it seems icky, yucky, unhygienic. But when you think of waste in terms of sorting, in terms of having revenue in it, then a landfill or a sorting facility or waste to energy facility wouldn't be as problematic to absorb. It means we as a community have to work towards being more intimate with our waste, being more conscious about what we generate, being willing to reuse, regenerate, to recycle, and of course to donate what we don't use. The last slide here is thinking about our future. Green industries, the circular infrastructure, and stronger partnerships. We can't do anything alone. And while we are part of critical projects like PROMA, which is ending plastic pollution, marine plastic pollution, which is a regional project, as well as ending the plastic tap project, we do not have enough waste in St. Kitts to generate big bucks
but we have too much waste in St. Kitts for us. I know it seems ironic, but it means that as a people, we have to be more conscious and we have to take serious action. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is one of our most popular circularity videos, which was produced this year for World Environment Day, which had a focus on marine pollution. And this video has been played worldwide, including, I think, in Hamburg, Germany, where our artists and video producers and designers at center stage in terms of what small St. Kitts and Nevis is doing about circularity and the circular economy. If we want to go green, if we want to have micro enterprises, if we want to deal with the waste that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis, then we have to be creative, we need partners, and we have to think about industries. So please enjoy our final video, and thank you so much for your attention. Just one last thing, my tech persons are saying you mentioned the wrong date for the video. It was International Zero Waste Day, and it was a United Nations environmental partnership that we participated in. But you know, in the Ministry of Environment, we celebrate environmental days every single month. And of course, our producers here, we worked with J Black and Zen, the designer. So I had to give them their props because the work is excellent. And if you agree, I think you should give that video production a clap because it's really excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Next, we will hear from the Honorable Marsha Henderson, Minister of Tourism, who will speak on the importance of tourism innovation and community partnership in our economic transformation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good night, all. Dr. Jeffrey Hanley. I see Ambassador, His Excellency Kenny Douglas in the audience as well. If you were paying attention to the video, you would realize that in tourism, our main objective is, we have three main objectives. For tourism to be resilient, tourism to be year-round and not seasonal, and for tourism to be community-led. And we have strategically, as a ministry, started focusing on those objectives. So tourism is led by the ministry. Of course, the work is done not just by the ministry, but the work is done by a number of agencies that collaborate with the ministry. So within the Ministry of Tourism, we have the Civil Aviation Department, we also have the Department of Maritime, and then we have 4 sister agencies who collaborate with us on our work in tourism. That is the St. Christopher Air Seaports, St. Christopher Air and the Seaports Authority, the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, the Frigate Bay Development Corporation, and the Urban Development Corporation. Collectively, we execute the mandate of the government to to perform our role in attaining a sustainable island state. I am proud at this time to be leading the team. We have dynamic teams, and we have so far made some accomplishments. And I'll go through briefly. For this year, and once I'm completed with going through the achievements as it relates to the Sustainable Island State Agenda, then I will briefly discuss what we're proposing to have as allocations for the 2026 budget to assist with accomplishing our mandate. And so for this year, in terms of our objectives, the three that I mentioned, we have recorded air and cruise performance. And this is, of course, in keeping with making the industry resilient. We have increased seat capacity by 18%, reaching 373 seats in 2025. We have increased visitor arrivals by 10%. That is between January and September 2025. Visitor arrivals has gone up by 10%. We continue in our objectives of making the industry resilient to strengthen our partnerships with our airlift partners, such as JetBlue, and all the other legacy carriers, such as American Airlines, United Airlines, Delta, British Airways, and of course, our regional partners. We have, in terms of making the industry more resilient, enhanced marketing and, of course, our overall visibility as a destination. We have partnered with major brands such as Cole Palmer to strengthen our presence in the UK market. Of course, this is targeting Gen Z travelers and our UK diaspora. We have also worked on partnering with a company called Blue Boho Fine Jewelry in Canada. And of course, this is to help us with connecting with high-end millennial travelers out of that particular source market. We have seen, in terms of being more resilient, tangible economic impacts, and we've seen an increase in visitor spend, and that is from 2022 up until 2024. We have seen an increase in the visitor spend per passenger. And this is not just me saying this, this is published on the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association. For those of you interested, this is spend per passenger for cruise passengers. You can check the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association website. They publish every 2 years the BREA studies. That's B-R-E-A, BREA studies, and that would confirm that we have in fact recorded an increase in visitor spend per passenger. Now, as it relates to the outlook and plans for 2026, and what we would want to discuss with you tonight for tourism, for the fiscal year of 2026, we will continue advancing our vision to position St. Kitts as a global model of inclusive, regenerative, and future-ready tourism destination. Our work will focus on strengthening the link between tourism growth and, of course, tangible economic and social outcomes, ensuring that the real beneficiaries are our people, our communities, and small businesses. We're hoping that from our allocations and, of course, our strategic plans, that these would be the beneficiaries. So our plans are therefore centered on 5 key priorities. We will continue to build and strengthen air and sea connectivity and visitor growth. And that simply means we're going to be investing in making the brand more visible and making sure that we can fill those seats that we have coming in. We also are going to focus on driving destination marketing and brand competitiveness. We understand that as a small sun destination that we compete with bigger destinations like Jamaica, the Bahamas, but of course we stand out and we are going to be focusing on the unique traits, the authenticity of our product so that we can effectively compete with those other destinations. We're going to be empowering communities through inclusive tourism. We will continue to ensure that tourism benefits reach individuals and families across the Federation, In 2026, we want to focus on the Heart of the Community project developed in collaboration with the OECS, which will directly engage our residents, build capacity, and create micro enterprises that allow the economic gains from tourism to trickle down to our communities. That is the essence of our sustainable tourism agenda. For us, it's not just environmental responsibility, but it's the social inclusion aspect as well, where we hope that we can drive tourism out of the areas just like Frigate Bay and bring it into the communities and allow our people to be the real beneficiaries. We will focus on projects such as the Keynes' Food Village, right here in St. Paul's. Well, we're in Sandy Point, but in the St. Paul's community and the environs, of course, and other local initiatives which will further showcase how community participation can drive inclusive growth. We're going to focus on supporting infrastructure modernization and resilience. I think COVID taught us that we need to go back to the table and look at our infrastructure and determine how we can make it more resilient. That, of course, includes greening our ports, digitizing what we have, and ensuring that our investments directly impact these areas. So we will continue to support partner agencies such as the UDC, SCASPER, and the Frigate Bay Development, make tourism resilient, which is extremely important. We know how fragile the industry can be, to make it community-driven and community-led, forgive me. And what is the third one? Anybody remembers? Year-round, and thank you very much. And we have come a long way. Tourism generally is seasonal, and most of these stakeholders rely solely on tourism for their livelihoods. And it's usually, our peak is usually in the winter season, so that starts in November and ends in April. But if you're paying attention, you can see that we're closing the gap on the industry being seasonal. And we've been strategic with this, and we've had airlift and full flights coming in up until August. And so we've managed to move from November to April, from November to August. That just leaves the months of September and October, and we're going to get there. And so those are our three main objectives, with the allocations, of course, in keeping with our CISA agenda. And we look forward to any questions that may come, relevant questions, of course.
Thank you, Minister Henderson. And now, to round off our presentations, we'll hear from the Honorable Samuel Duggins, Minister of the Creative Economy and Entertainment, who will discuss the exciting opportunities within the creative sector as a driver of growth, identity, and empowerment. Minister Duggins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and allow me to recognize all at the head table, and especially so our acting Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Jeffrey Hanley. I also wish to acknowledge the hard-working government officials and workers in the audience, but also to recognize and welcome the general public that is here, that are here to engage tonight for these discussions. It tells me that you recognize the importance of these discussions just as we do. Tonight, I've been given the task to speak about the movement that has been reshaping how we see ourselves and how we see our talent, and the movement that has been reshaping how we see our economy. And that movement we have recently dubbed the creative economy. It's no secret that the creative sector had been dismissed as a hobby sector for many years, something that you do as a pastime, something that you relatively pass off as just a dream, a fleeting dream. But more recently, we have seen where people are now taking it quite serious. and we are recognizing it for what it truly is. And the creative economy, undoubtedly, is a powerful engine for growth, a powerful source of pride, and a bridge that could bring global communities together. Now, over the last 3 years, actually, I've had the privilege of leading the creative economy after bringing it under that umbrella. Under that umbrella, we have different sectors. We have the cultural element, which involves cultural preservation and advancing. And we also have entertainment, the arts, which again deals with a lot of the performing values of the creative sector, from dance to drama, film, and the likes. And within that umbrella, you still have, as an entity, our national carnival. And so when we look at the creative economy, most people just see it as performing artists. It is much more than just that. It embodies who we are as a people and how we embrace and protect our culture. And that is why over the last few years, we have brought a number of training programs to the forefront. In recent times, you've seen the drummers featuring at a number of our events. That has been long part of our cultural identity. From Akola Tegramanti, we could go back. Now, these drummers were fading at one point, and it was in 2023 we bought another 50+ African drums, and we were able to expand that program not just into the Bastia schools, but throughout the country. And we've seen a revival of drumming in our country again, and excitingly so, because they have been a featured presence at our events. There's been another area that I have been extremely proud of, and that is our mural project. When you drive around the country, you see murals around the country. And to most people, they could easily write it off as just a piece of artwork. But let me dive into exactly what that was. We highlighted the top artists, visual artists that is, in our country. We put them through sessions with Mr. Leonard Stapleton, who went through every artist and every community that they will be doing the art, and gave them a history lesson on not just St. Kitts as a nation, St. Kitts and Nevis as a nation, but the actual community. So the lessons on who were the people influential in that community, what is the essence of that community from back in the 1700s till now. And the artists then use that knowledge that they gain to then create their art pieces. I've had an experience that really identified to me how powerful that was. And I was sharing it with the cabinet 2 days ago. We had the privilege of hosting the Kalinago chiefs here in St. Kitts for a conference. And I took them down to Bloody Point. And on the way to Bloody Point, there's a mural of the history of the Kalinago settlement that went from the arrival of the Europeans all the way through to, of course, the massacre of the Kalinagos. And when the team of Kalinagos saw that mural, and we described to them what the essence was, they broke down crying. Tears ran down their faces, and they could not stop uncontrollably. And when asked, why, they said, we are looking at our history here. These are our foreparents that came back down to Dominica and was a part of our village. These are our family members. And they felt it deep down. And then you realize these murals are not just art on a wall. They are capturing our history, our culture, and our identity. And this is what the creative economy is. And these artists were paid and are making now a livelihood from capturing history. We are making this more than just talent and art. It is now a trade. We are turning our artists into tradesmen and women. But over the years, it has also been difficult for us to get the collective oversight of what this truly means to have a creative economy. Because when you have something that has been a hobbyist sector for so long, most people look at it and have a hard time adjusting. And we've been training our artists across all platforms. In finance, we've been training them in marketing, we've been training them in business management, so that they understand that they become tradesmen and women and owners of businesses and not just a popular singer, dancer, musician, or the like. And we want to move that into 2026 even stronger. In 2024, we hosted for the first time our Creative Arts Convention here in St. Kitts, where we brought in some of the world's best across various sectors: costume designs, fashion and modeling. We brought in the best in tour management, production, and today we've seen quite a bit of development from that. Our very own De Jour now has quite a bit of music with some of the world's best artists, and he is getting ready now to start releasing all of this music, and as he joins our own Byron Messiah, who has been out there on the world stage performing. But we've also seen where our costume builders now are having a better time in managing their own affairs and how they develop their sectors. And we've seen that across so many sectors. Now in 2026, we want to host our second Creative Arts Convention, because we don't believe that you just do this as a one-off and leave them where they were. You have to continuously keep repeating these lessons and hope that they take them to the next stage, as we've seen most of them do. And 2026, the Creative Arts Convention is set to be hosted here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But beyond the Creative Arts Convention, we also want to make sure that we have a very strong and vibrant creative arts policy, because no sector could thrive well without it being regulated and organized, and a policy helps to do that properly. That even when we are not here as current practitioners, what are we leaving for generations to come that they may follow and be guided by? And that policy, we believe, will help to structure and guide our creatives down the right path. And with some of these efforts, we do believe that our country will move to the next stage of creative art development. We've seen the Byron Messiahs. We've seen some of our creatives that have done extremely well. But we don't want one-offs. We want a machinery, similar to what countries like Jamaica may have done with areas of reggae and areas even in sports, where in track and field you see a machinery coming out, one after the next, one after the next. In reggae music and dancehall, one after the next, global icon after global icon. And we have been looking to create the same machinery. And that's why we also brought the likes of Steve Urchin, who had managed Sean Paul for the last 26 years and had him do intensive sessions with our creatives. We brought in the likes of Damon Dash, who was actually the person who advised Rockefeller Records. So Darian Dash, actually, who came, he advised Damon Dash, he advised Jay-Z on how to establish Rockefeller Records. And we had him here training our creatives as to how to establish their own set of record companies and how to navigate the record industry. But even beyond recording contracts, we have been talking to all our creatives. And of course, we've seen Carnival. We've seen what Carnival has become. Over the last few years, we've had record-breaking numbers across all sectors. When we look at our folklore troops, record-breaking numbers. Why? Because we've been training our young people to take our folklore more seriously. When we look at the advancement of even other troops, and we hear the comparison all the time about the Trinidad-style troops, as we will call them, but that is also part of our Carnival product. And we have been empowering that as well. But we have been encouraging our people not to let go of our tradition, of our culture. When we look at our bands and our music, we have encouraged the bands to be more collaborative. And I'm happy to express that they have formed an association. And we have been empowering the band association as well, so that they could create more music and do it more economically. We have been working across the board, and 2026 will be no different. We want to ensure that the creative sector in St. Kitts and Nevis becomes a hub, an economic platform for people to advance. No longer should somebody think, I need to have a job in a Oxford, or TDC, or be a lawyer or a doctor, and then do music on the side, or do paintings on the side, or do something else related to culture and creativity on the side. We are saying that this is your passion. Focus on that, pursue it, and make a living off of it. And until we see that as a viable economic pillar, we will not stop in our efforts. And even when we see that, our efforts will continue to keep growing that from strength to strength. So I am looking forward to 2026, when we continue to empower the creative arts sector, where we can see our artists touring, like we are seeing Byron Messiah, who's actually out in Europe right now, like we've seen over the summer with our New Vibes band, like we've seen last year and this year with Small Acts, like we've seen happening with Digiterra, like we've seen happening with Dejour. We want to increase those numbers and see more artists touring. We want to see more murals along our walls, knowing that artists are making a living off of these paintings and our culture is being preserved, being captured and preserved by the virtue of these artists' vision. And we want to continue ensuring that while tourism and other areas continue playing their role in advancing our economy, that the creative sector is right there with them, making sure that our artists and our creative have a platform, have a voice, and have their vision well represented for the world to see. Because we are small, but our people are indeed mighty and showcasing ourselves and our country, our identity to the world. And I'm happy to be leading that sector as the minister for the last 3 years and looking forward for a long, long time in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duggins. To provide a fiscal and policy perspective, we now invite Mr. Carlton Poxon, Acting Financial Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, to share his reflection and response to the points raised this evening. Mr. Poxon.
Good evening, all. Allow me to acknowledge the presence of our Acting Prime Minister, the other members of the head table, the Honorable Dr. Joy Clark, the Honorable Marsha Henderson, the Honorable Samal Duggins, the chair of this evening's proceedings. Allow me to recognize the hard-working staff of the Ministry of Finance, taken from the Department of Inland Revenue, the Treasury Department or the Accountant General Department, our team from Customs and Excise, the hard-working staff in the Office of the Financial Secretary, and our staff from the CPU, all working together to ensure that the financial affairs of our nation are in order. And so it is my honor to share with us this evening as we take another decisive step towards shaping the future of our federation. The 2026 national budget is not merely a financial document. It is a strategic instrument, a reflection of our shared values and commitment to building a sustainable state. This year's budget is being developed in full alignment with the National Development Planning Framework, or the NDPF, of which the 7 pillars of the Sustainable Island State Agenda are aligned. As you might have already observed, each ministerial portfolio is mapped directly to these pillars, ensuring that sectoral priorities such as climate resilience, digital transformation, inclusive growth, are not only acknowledged, but actively resourced. Whether it is the Ministry of Environment advancing renewable energy, the Ministry of Tourism promoting ecotourism, or the Ministry of the Creative Economy supporting innovation and cultural industries, every dollar allocated is designed to contribute to long-term sustainability, economic diversification, and in the improved quality of life. This is a whole government approach of budgeting, where strategic alignments meet fiscal discipline. Hence, we are engaging citizens across the Federation, such as these town halls and our national consultation slated for later next week. Our citizens' feedback thus far has been valuable in the planning process. To ensure transparency and impact, the public's input is being collated and reviewed by the Ministry of Finance Budget and Fiscal team and will be integrated into budget planning by matching community priorities with fiscal capacity and policy objectives. Themes such as youth employment, healthcare access, education, national security, and support for elderly and the impaired are being directly reflected in the budgetary discussions. This approach ensures that the budget is not just a government plan, it's a people's plan. Let me now share a brief synopsis how the budget is laid out in the three prongs discussed by our ministers. The circular economy. Funding is being considered towards waste reduction initiatives, recycling infrastructure, and sustainable consumption models. These include support for community-led environmental projects and initiatives for business adopting green practices. The creative economy. We are allocating for cultural industries, digital content creation, and innovative hub, as this sector is being positioned as a driver for youth engagement, entrepreneurship, and the global visibility of our unique heritage. Tourism. Resources are being considered to ecotourism development, destination marketing, and infrastructure upgrades. The focus is on sustainable tourism that preserve our natural beauty while creating jobs and stimulating growth. These intended allocations reflect our commitment to economic diversification and resilience building. As we move forward, let us remember that the budget is not just about numbers. It is about people, partnership, and progress. Therefore, society, the private sector, and citizens, we want you to join
Good night to the panel. And I also want to highlight something that the acting financial secretary just said. The budget is not just about numbers, it is about people. And so I have a few questions specifically for the acting prime minister about how this budget coming up can directly impact the people. Now, one of these questions that I'm going to ask came from a resident of Sandy Point, and one of the questions they would like an answer to is specifically about human resources. What considerations are put in place for human resource when preparing the government's budget? Human resource considerations are crucial in government budgeting to ensure a capable, efficient, and effective public sector that can meet its strategic goals. Without proper HR budgeting, governments risk understaffing, a mismatch between skills and needs, and a decline in the quality of public services. Having said this, what is the government's position with the wastage of human resources having persons sitting at home for you? Is giving your background as a long-serving civil servant and a former director of youth, you understand better than most the profound significance of the 1 month lump sum known as the double salary that public sector workers planned their lives around. this administration has effectively replaced this crucial year-end capital with an 8% increase spread across 12 months. So, from an economic and social perspective, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, how do you justify taking away that highly anticipated immediate financial boost that families relied on for major holiday spending, for debt, or for home repairs? And why is your government forcing our hard-working public servants to budget a tiny fraction monthly, thereby undermining their ability to afford a dignified Christmas? And will our hard-working civil servants receive a double salary? Now, the duty-free concession is something that a number of our citizens rely on throughout, well, at the end of the year, and they anticipate it. The duty-free allowances and imported goods was traditionally activated in November. And even under your administration, in 2022, 23, packages to be shipped, cleared, and received before Christmas Day. The business community and citizens have relied on this timing. Why has this government chosen to shift or delay the primary start date for this vital concession to a later date in December? Is this fiscal manipulation designed to allow the government to collect duties for a longer period? Or is this policy shift a clear demonstration that your administration is failing to grasp the critical logistical and economic planning required by our citizens? You campaigned as part of a Labour administration platform on the permanent VAT reduction, and you went the length of breadth of St. Kitts campaigning on this, and you offered this as a relief to the electorate. Now that the temporary 6-month measure has lapsed, there is a profound trust deficit, particularly among citizens who are struggling for their daily survival. Beyond temporary tax holidays, can you detail the single, permanent, and legislative step that your government, as you are part of the cabinet, will take to genuinely lower the tax burden on essential goods and fulfill that original campaign promise? I look forward to the responses specific to the questions.
Thank you very much. As it relates to the question on the human resource aspect, quite a lengthy series of questions. I will try to summarize, but what I will say to you is that our government is fully committed to building our human capacity through our continued investment in training. And of course, this commitment, you would have realized also, came in the minimum wage increase, largely benefiting our civil servants. We continue to invest in our pension plans and our health insurance. Many persons benefited as a result of this caring government when it comes about taking care of our people. And in the not too distant future, we would be looking at the human resource in terms of being totally digitalized, in terms of our records, and the introduction of human resource information system that, of course, will improve efficiency and productivity from our civil service. And the Honorable Marsha Henderson will also be able to even talk about the productive committee council that is being in place to ensure that the workers do the work that they ought to. With regards to the double salary, first of all, the double salary is a financial determination, and I would assume at the right time the minister with responsibility for finance will deliberate on such. What I was expecting is perhaps a recommendation from you as to how that might be able to be possible or not happen because of what is happening in the world at this time. I believe it was human resource and double salary. Yes, if anything else, remember, I'll come back. Sorry, I just realized, I think there was a question in reference to a preamble rather, in reference to the duty-free concession and the timing. And that, what I will say to you and probably to those who are listening, when the analysis was done, St. Kitts and Nevis is leading in regards to this specific initiative. No other country in the region gave the amount of VAT days that we are given and the length of time.
Good evening to the panel. Azad Gums, Deputy Political Leader of the People's Action Movement. I'm also an attorney at law. I'm glad to see that the minister, the acting Prime Minister is here, Dr. Hanley, and members of the cabinet, including the Member of Parliament for constituency number 4, as we engage in this important national budget consultation. And as we do so, I want to make a special appeal for the residents and constituents of constituency number 4. I know we're in number 5 here, but we are talking about a national budget consultation. In the 2024 budget, more than EC 130 million was allocated for capital projects under public infrastructure, including major road works across the country. The Minister of Infrastructure highlighted in a recent video upgrades in areas such as St. Peter's and other communities. And while that progress is noted, the people of constituency 4 continue to be left behind. I have been in constant dialogue with the people of constituency number 4, and they have spoken with one voice about the state of our roads. In Green Acres, Conyers, Lamberts, and Half-a-Tree, the roads continue to be in terrible condition. Every time heavy rain falls, these roads become almost impassable. Water collects in deep potholes, vehicles are damaged, and residents, including children and elderly, are left struggling through flooded and unsafe pathways just to reach home from work. As you consider the upcoming 2026 budget, I appeal to the Minister of Infrastructure, to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, and to Mr. Duggins, the representative for constituency number 4, at least for now, to make roads in constituency number 4 a genuine priority. Our people deserve safe and reliable infrastructure just like those in other communities. I await patiently for the answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Azad. I would imagine that the rep might have something that he would be sharing. But okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy, for allowing me a chance to address the concerns by Mr. Gomes. Now, there were a few inaccurate statements within your dialogue. However, I wish to say number 4 has not been left behind. We actually started the entire development in roads where the people of Challengers who had been left without roads for a long time got their roads in Challengers. And we were the first community to start that road development revolution. So obviously you have been disconnected from that community. However, we talk also about, you mentioned Conyers, Green Acres. If I remember correctly, while we have been moving forward to serve these people with good roads, if we look back just a little bit, it was a government before this government that designed Conyers project, that built Conyers project at the top, that distributed the homes to Conyers project, and did not have proper access to that project, if I remember correctly. In fact, there were times where persons with cars had to park down on the lower project and walk it home. It was this administration that made it accessible for them to drive to that project. I think it is fair to consider that the design, build, and delivery of a project without proper road access, lack of vision and lack of foresight. But this administration, I believe, will make sure to correct that wrong. As we move to Green Acres, and may his soul rest in peace, it was the late Glenn Goose Phillip that built that project on his tenure. Unfortunately, he was not able to distribute those homes, and they were distributed by the administration prior to this one. That was, at this point, almost a decade ago. And no roads, after the Honorable Minister would have built the project, no roads were installed there for all the time that that administration was in. For 7+ years. None at all. However, I have been assured by the Minister of Public Infrastructure, which I don't want to speak detailed on his behalf because he would have to represent exactly what his our entire plan is for infrastructure. But I can speak to constituency number 4 and Green Acres, and we have reliably informed the residents at Green Acres that their road, in terms of new road development, is actually next in line for development. Because after we did Challengers, we went around and shared it around to all the communities, and now we are back in constituency number 4 and looking to do Green Acres next, as I've been reliably informed. And so I don't know what the disconnect is with you and the information that you have, but I think your details were a bit misinformed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Samuel Duggins. I was asking a question here just for clarity, because this is sometimes you have to make sure that you put the right information out there, because when people come in to try to paint a different picture, sometimes they don't get enough time to unpaint that. But this government has been in operation for 3 years, and we have spent already over $80 million in infrastructure, including road, in all the communities. So nobody cannot say that we are not working when it comes to that the Minister of Road Infrastructure, I'm sorry he's not here. He's at another event. I told him to stay there while I come here. He would have been able to give the whole detail, and those of us who are listening would hear it. He give this here over and over, all of the areas that he is doing, and give an update as to the other areas that will be touched. So obviously, you're not walking the area, so you need to find shoes and walk.
Go ahead, sir.
Good night. My name is Troy Flanders. I'm a farmer by profession. 2 years later, and 1.5 million, yet the greenhouse village is at a standstill. So to you, Mr. Minister, the question is, how much more money will be allocated for the greenhouse village? And why is the greenhouse village at a standstill after 2 years? Not one greenhouse has been completed. That's one question. The other question is 5.5 million was budgeted for the Tabasco project. How much of that 5.5 million already been spent? And the other question, it's 3 questions. The Department of Agriculture, for the first time, as far as I could remember, is unable to restock its implements. So, the question is, I was told by staffers that there's no money to restock. So my question is to you, right? Are the budget for the ministry are going to be increased apart from the Tabasco? Right? Because the only increase last year was in the Tabasco project for the ministry. So my question is, the farmers going to suffer 2026 as they are suffering in 2025 because a lack of inputs and the money is not readily available to restock the inputs that the farmer badly needed to carry out their duty. Because food security, as we all know, as you all continue to speak about sustainable island states and what's that, right? And we speak about food security, but the effort towards food security is lacking. It's just short. Because if you're going to allocate 5.5 million for Tabasco, which will not fall under food security, right? So I don't want you to get mixed up with the question. So the question is, are the budget for agriculture, apart from Tabasco, will it be increased significantly so that the farmers do not have to suffer like how they suffer this year from lack of payments as going on because no money there and no money there for imports, seeds, chemicals, and other things, plastic mulch, and you could go on and on. There's none at the department, so that's the question I want to ask.
Well, I wish to thank that person for coming forward and putting forth your perspective. But I want to just speak to that briefly. And as a politician yourself, and aspiring politician, but as one person on the political field in constituency number 6. We were there just for the last session. And it was there a farmer came to me and said, what you're doing in agriculture, we can see it and feel it in the farming community. This is the best it has ever been. In fact, you somehow have things a bit mixed up. But let me attempt to clarify. One of the issues that we have had in being able to address the medicine and the supplies, as you indicated, is that the industry is growing so rapidly that what has happened is the money that we budgeted, it runs out and it's then now outside of the scope of the regular budget. That is why we have recognized that to be able to constantly keep up with the rapid growth of the agricultural industry, it is best that we privatize some of these initiatives. Why? Because when we go to Parliament to pass a budget, that budget becomes law. The numbers allocated to the different areas is allocated on the law. We can't just go back and put more money in it just like that. There's a process. Fiscal prudence must be exercised. And so when you have a rapidly developing industry and you have stagnant budgets as governments we have, it becomes a bit more difficult to be able to respond to rapidly developing industries. And so we decided to privatize those areas where we see that development happening beyond the scope of a regular budget. But you also mentioned the greenhouse villages and the $1.5 million. I also want to clarify that as well, because you seem to be a bit confused as to how that is done. But it is my duty as a minister to clarify. What we did with the greenhouse village was arrange for purchase and construct contracts. And so who purchased the greenhouses are responsible for constructing the greenhouses. They have had some labor issues which created delays on their part. Of course, we as the Ministry of Agriculture, as the one behind it all, we are driving forward to correct that, and it is not stagnant. They are actually building them. People are working on them regularly as we speak. Well, not tonight, but regularly. And I am saying to you that that is a part of a contract where they purchase and erect. They have had issues on their part. We have been trying to rectify those issues along with them because we want our farmers to see the benefit of that greenhouse village. We understand how revolutionary that is and how that has been one of the catalysts in our mind that will transform even further our sector. But unfortunately, they have run into some labor issues. We are trying to rectify that issue, and we are now moving forward. We have seen the greenhouses being developed. The site is being developed. So the idea that it is stagnant is not entirely accurate. Were there issues with the greenhouse village at one point? Yes. But because the contract was purchased and built, we had to intervene through the purchaser who's responsible for building. And we have been able to sort some of those matters out. Now, the truth is, if you have been paying attention to agriculture, you would recognize that we have given farmers input. Over 700 farmers would have received somewhere between ground cover, fencing wire, drip irrigation, components for monkey deterrents, and so much more that we have given to training, development, and even overseas marketing. In fact, I believe you are part of an organization that benefits from that overseas marketing and trade. And so, for you to be saying that nothing is happening or it is stagnant, I believe is a bit inaccurate. And might be a bit deliberate too. And so, I am happy to say as minister, outside of the 700 farmers we've empowered through that means, we've also made sure to drive the sector in different ways. And we see the numbers. We see where we are developing agriculture. In fact, I was on radio with on Win FM, I think it was last week, with Lorraine. And I remember just after the interview I asked, when was the last time agriculture was at the national conversation? I said, in fact, what was done in agriculture before this administration? She admitted she doesn't even know. She couldn't even remember who was the Minister of Agriculture in the last administration. And I'm saying it is a vulnerable sector. We understand that, and we are here to support that. But the fallacy that nothing is happening, we don't entertain that because it has been driving forward as productive now, way more productive now than it has ever been. And that is the truth, that is the fact, and I'm not the one saying that. The numbers actually show that.
Can you next person, please?
Just one,
Sir?
No.
Sir, can we have the next person, please? Thank you.
Okay, good evening all. Peace to everyone here. It's a pleasure to be here to ask a few questions in pertaining to the budget. I'm happy you mentioned about roads because I apologize. My name is Lincoln David Pell. I am one of the deputy political leaders for the People's Action Movement. I'm also over in constituency number 7. So I'm here to actually bring some concerns on behalf of the people of number 7. And at the end of it, to the nation in general, I recognize that the roads were give a facelift. I said roads, but I want to talk about streets. In constituency 7, there are a few streets that needs a facelift. Some might even be needing rebuilt. So I just asking a question on behalf of the people and myself, how much money will be allocated for roads and the streets? Because I'm not asking for all streets in constituency 7 to be done. The worst ones, you could go and examine them or have the public works. I'm just asking for at least one street in each village. I have maybe about 8 villages or so in constituency 7. It could be 9. I'm not asking too much. But the worst streets, I'm asking for them to get sorted out. The other thing, I'm happy about sports. Mr. Duggan speak about sports. I think he's a sportsman as well. And the Deputy Prime Minister, who is acting Prime Minister, is sports. I'm also a sports person. And I'm happy you mentioned sports because I believe sports can take our young persons far. To me, I'm not even seeing it as sport. I see it as a career. And therefore, there are some sports, the equipment, the clothing, whatever you might call it, sometimes not readily available in our nation. I'm asking for some, I know it's there, but sometimes it could be, kind of hard to get it done. Some concession, duty-free and some of these things. There are some, let's say, for example, I'm into sports, like I said, but I'm into martial arts. The uniforms are not readily available here. They're not clothes you can walk down the street with. But when you bring them in, the tax is there. I'm just asking if some sports, some concessions could be go to some sports. I'm talking for all sports in general, but there are some that are very peculiar. Those clothes or whatever you want to call it cannot go down the road in it. So I'm asking for some concessions, some big ones, because we are trying to, as a sport person, we're trying to get our young persons in a position that they could make a living. And there are a lot of persons from St. Nevis but live overseas who are doing that. Some of them, their parents from here. But what I'm saying, I would like our children who are here could get that benefit. And sometimes what is very important, what we miss, is those simple things, which is concession to make things cheaper. The persons, the companies who are bringing them in, well, okay, that's their thing, but the individual, the clubs, the association, some duty-free concession for them. I also want to mention that, and my constituency big in sports, so that's why I'm here pushing for sports. We have someone here who family was a big netballer and things like that. So, you know, constituency is in a strong sporting area. We have some heroes from sports, right? And what is even very important, we now have a number of persons from St. Kitts who is on the West Indies team and on the... I'm so happy for them, and I like to see that. So I want your help to make sure our sport persons get some concession to get those things in. You're laughing, so I would assume that you're with me on this track. Okay? So we're on the same track. The other thing is that, Mr. Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, my friend, I'm happy that this, I'm not going to say Joshua or Ibadai. I want people to understand which school that it is. Molyneux Primary School, inner city. I'm happy to see that there's some work done on that school. You know, I would have hoped it would have finished for the school year that we're in now, but you know better than I why it is that way. And that is why we're discussing the budget. But one concern I have is that some parents would have met me and said sometimes teachers complain that there are certain things that are lacking. I know when I used to go to school, chalk, toilet paper, I'm not sure what it is, right? But I'm just saying what they tell me. I'm just asking if the budget for the education could be increased. Those teachers, I'm not sure you're there, you'll be able to ask a few questions and to find out what the needs are. I used to be in stock taking as well, and you know, these things come into handy to get it sorted out. But I'm just saying what I was being told. You are there, you should know better than I am, but I'm just asking if the budget for the education could be improved so the essential things that are at the school could get sorted out. I just want to thank you for having me to speak, and I just want to make mention as well. I'm here with my political leader, Ms. Gray Brooks, and the other deputy political leader, Mr. Azad Gums. I was hoping that more persons would have come and asked questions before I did, because I don't want them to think it's a party versus party, but these are just some questions that people are asking, and they are national questions. So I hope that we will see some increase in the budget for the areas I mentioned about. There are others, but I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much. God bless St. Kitts and Nevis. And God bless constituency number 7.
I duly note your concerns, and as it regards to the matter with sports, I'm happy to say to you and the constituents of constituency number 7 that the Ministry of Sports actually offers duty concessions on sporting gear and equipment for organized sporting institutions. And so to the constituents of constituency number 7, feel free to come to the Ministry of Sports, and we will happily help in offering that duty concession for organized sporting institutions.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Pell, for the questions and the recommendations raised. I must say to you, I don't know if you're aware, that all teachers were given for the very first time in St. Kitts a teacher supply card, which gives every teacher an opportunity to buy supplies outside of what government provides. No teacher or no school can talk about not having. You say you don't know, so probably they weren't clear either. But no school can be out of chalk, out of manila paper, out of markers, and all of those things. 'Cause I have been roaming my schools. As a matter of fact, I've said to some of them that they have to send some of their supplies to other schools. So you probably need to have them explain further so that I can know exactly what they are talking about. I would have hoped that you might have looked at the last year budget and you would have recognized that the Ministry of Education had the largest increase in the budget for 2025. So of course that is clear that it is a priority for this administration. You will be hearing later on, as we finalize the budget, exactly what figures are going to be available, but for sure, roads, as I indicated, will be a part of that. And you mentioned about some roads over there. I wanted to find out if those roads just got that way, or what time frame are you talking about in terms of those roads, because over there had a prime minister representing them at one time.
7 years.
For 7.5 years. So, but we will deliver on what we are committed to do, and that is serving all of the people. With regard to the Joshua Obadiah Primary School, I did give a commitment that I will, or we will as a government, rebuild the Joshua Obadiah Primary School, and that is happening as we speak. And that school did not burn down or got destroyed under our government. It was done under the former government, who could have done exactly what we are doing right now to rebuild. But part of our mantra is just to build. So we are building.
Thank you, Minister. Do we have any other questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Flanders, if not, then you can go.
Okay. Just for the record, the government does not change. Administration do. Government is continuous. Mr. Minister of Agriculture, I sit here and I listen to you say certain things, and you didn't answer the question about the Tabasco. How much of that 5.5 million have been spent already? I didn't get that answer. And I think that you should take your own advice that you give to Azad and visit the greenhouse village, because it's overgrown. So I don't think that any work is going on there with all those grass that is covering those buildings. So I think you should pay the visit tomorrow so that you could be clear that when you speak, you say what exactly is happening. And you speak about numbers. So do you have the figures to indicate to the nation that from the launch of the 25 by 25, that our import bill is on the decline? Do you have those figures to show the nation where we are going in terms of the 25 by 25, how we are progressing? Do you have those figures so you could share with the nation? Because we were speaking about the best agriculture is doing. So I want to believe that those figures will indicate a decline in the import bill. So do you have those figures so you could share with us? And another thing, thank you for giving us the information that you are privatizing certain part of the Department of Agriculture. I think that if something like that is going on, the farmers should be the first to know, or even the staff at the department should be able to tell the farmers these things. So when we speak about transparency in the future, if you're going down that road, the stakeholders should be informed properly with something like that, not hear it by the wayside. No. There are certain things, protocols need to be done. I mean, the farmers are the stakeholders. So you will come to us and tell us, okay, no, you go to this supplier for these things. No, it doesn't work like that. If you really have us to be the one who's supposed to carry out the 25 by 20, we should be informed before, right? So I will say that I'm going to let it slide because you actually sit there and saying that I'm lying. But the figures does not lie. So I would like you to present the figures, if you do have them, and let the nation know the progress that we are making in agriculture, as you so boast about. And as you talk about the inputs that you gave out to 700 farmers, right? I assume that with all those inputs, the figures will show that those inputs has been put to use and with proper planning and everything, that the figures are going in the right direction, right? So, and also, what's the use in giving out inputs in January and by March you can't get no more inputs? Because as a farmer yourself, you know you have to be continuously planting. So if you plant in January and cannot plant in March, any other month going down, that will just defeat the purpose. And I will rest my case so that you could answer. Thank you.
Again, in an effort to address your concerns, let us look at the agricultural sector as a whole. Now, as we talk about numbers, the agricultural sector covers crop, livestock, fisheries, agro-processing. Across all those sectors, we've seen significant increases over the last few years. I could point to the crop sector, where we've seen the increase in production in crops like cabbage significantly from 5.8 metric tons to now 13.8 metric tons. Crops like cantaloupe from 12.4 metric tons to 39.3 metric tons. Cucumber from 34.9 metric tons to 84.8 metric tons. Pineapple from 5 metric tons to 20.4 metric tons, and I could go on. I could speak to fisheries, moving from annual earnings in the sector from just over 8 million in 2022, actually 2021, because that would have been the figures represented or published in 2022, to the figures published in 2024, moving up to 19.6 million. These are not my numbers. These are numbers that are documented for national data, not my numbers. So if you're telling me that they are lying, then that's a different conversation that we're having. But numbers suggest an increase in agriculture, and that is the fact. Now, let us direct your input bill. Correct. So if production is increasing, then we understand, of course, what happens there. But I must add another wonderful component. Our Minister of Tourism has been growing our tourism sector so fast that we also trying to keep up with the production to match the growth in tourism. And so, yes, the country is moving faster than maybe you could understand and comprehend, but at the end of it, the tourism is moving, agriculture is moving, because the data shows it. And we continue moving forward and progressing the nation.
Do we have any more questions, concerns? Consider it. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Good night, everyone. My name is Mr. Chassie Douglas from Sandy Point, a concerned citizen of this nation. I have some questions to ask and have some suggestions to give. One, I have a clip here where Congress Maynard did in Sandy Point say that water will never go under his administration over his dead body. However, now, after 7 o'clock, if I reach out from the mark which I carry dead people, I cannot bathe my skin till the next day. Two, the hospital. The hospital start going mold. All the ACNs, so just like the police station, I will like you all to look into it before it go to a larger scale where you are got to pay more money for renovation and so. Also, I would like to know when you are going to put back the medical thing, we call it, the pharmacy back in Sandy Point. Because when people have to live all your own money out the salary, I think that you all need to look into it for the settlers' home, because I have family there and it's very, very hard for us. So I'm asking you all to look into it, so get some funding for the people them that goes to the health center and so with their own personal money after they're being paid to get the medication. 3, we have the Sandy Point football field, the stadium or pavilion, what you may call it. Right now, when a heavy rain falls, you call them shelter there. And I think Sandy Point got the best field with sport. I would like you all to look into it and get it renovated before you go too far. 3, we didn't talk about agriculture. I used to be the assistant at Echo Park under the Taiwan people them. Okay? A earlier, a graph. I mean, Mr. Samuel, you see me by your place with whooping, so you must know me and you had the discussion about that. So I do multiple things. I bake bread, I bake for Fancy. I was the assistant manager. I bake for Oil and Bakery. I asked Mr. Jeffrey Hanley. I did stonework when he was the thing of youths and in the dungeon. Do stonework and them thing there. We have about several spring suggestion to you all. Get some catchment and please to put them for the farmers. So when the rain come, you got books, you have farms, you got Sogleys, you got Cranston, and you also have fires. However, we have 3 pumps that I only know that 2 is in function. That's the one at Sogleys, just behind Echo Park, and the one at the bridge over close to Newton Ground. I can't remember its name. So when we're talking about water shortage, if you all put some catchment there and put the pipe and the water, whatever little come down and that full, when we all have the lacking off of water, we could use that. Because for Sandy Point, they have so many springs, never have shortage of water in our life yet. Until now, we have 2 springs. We have so many springs. We have 2 pumps, sorry. Where do we pump water going to somebody else? So we feeding somebody. I don't know if it's the white man them, because it seems like them taking on the Chinese. So how would I get a bait skin? And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Douglas, for your suggestions and recommendations. Just to inform as well that since this administration has been in for just 3 years, we have already invested over $50 million in water. This has never happened under the former administration, who would have been there for 7.5 years. In the last parliament, obviously you weren't listening, but you can always go back and listen. The Honorable Congress Maynard gave a minister's statement and he highlighted all of the investment that we would have done so far as it relates to water, not only the desalination plant that is about to open, they're doing the testing, but also gave a comprehensive report of all of the testing that would have been done from their end, where they would have identified where the possible source of water will be. And this government has made a commitment that we are going to be drilling for water, because part of the vision is to make sure that we go 24/7 with water. So we will be taking that into account. I'm going to find out about the pharmacy at Paxson, and I can also report back to you, because I know you very well. Thank you very much.
And I want to also thank you for your intervention. Now, while I was on radio, I gave a detailed report on what has been transpiring in sports. And while I don't we understand and we've seen the Kim Collins on where it was. versus where it is today. We saw how Warner Park has been and the work that we are doing to revive Warner Park as well. We saw Basketball City, what it was, and we are now working to revive Basketball City. The challenge is St. Kitts and Nevis per capita has more sporting facilities than the entire Leeward Islands combined. That is a really good thing, but it's also the challenge that we have more facilities to maintain under a budget than the entire Leeward Islands combined. And so what we had to do is set priorities. It is unfortunate, but it's the reality. We have to set priorities. And our first priority was to get our national facilities in working condition, because we believe that will then boost the morale of our athletes and also inspire the region and the world to come to our shores, and we could get more productivity out of that. As we go on, we try to then fix in the communities, and Sandy Point is not being forgotten. We will get to Sandy Point, but I'm asking for some patience, because at the end of the day, it is a lot of facilities to fix. I am quite sure if we look around the country, every community will have a facility that they could say they need fixing, and we want to get to all of them, but it will take a sequence of time for us to fix and go around the country and get to some of these facilities. So thank you for your intervention, a meaningful one, and we are coming to Sandy Point.
Yes, Mr. Minister, if I say something that I forget, just behind the substation, a lady named Worry, she worked just below the police station in Bastille. Right now, she cannot come out of her house. I put it to Mr. Kenny Douglas before. I don't know if he put it to you all. But it teased me very much badly to see that she got to put big stone and so, and logs, make up a scaffold to walk across from her house to go on another side to go to church. Otherwise, as she step out, she don't go there. It's a big swamp, about 60-something feet. So if you can sell public works to even put some crusher on or something there, I would appreciate it. Thank you. That's the last thing from me.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That wraps up our open floor discussion. I now invite the Acting Financial Secretary to give us a brief update on the retail bond program.
Good evening again. I just want to take the opportunity to share with all of us a program with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the territories across the Eastern Caribbean. At this point in time, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and the government of Grenada are launching a retail bond. And you would see by the pillars that we have here. So just so that we would know, the minimum investment into that retail bond is $500, okay? The maximum investment is $50,000. The interest on that is 4.25%. So very shortly in the Federation with Central Bank, we'll be working to do a whole massive launch. The brokers for this bond are the National Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis and the Bank of Nevis. I want to encourage those of us that are here, before leaving, you can take a scan of the QR code, which will take you to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank website, and you'll have details on the bond. And if you have questions, you could reach out to the Ministry of Finance. We could answer where we can, and we can even direct you to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, where they can provide more information. Very shortly, our prospectus would be in the market, and we want to invite our people to be ready to invest into this great initiative across the Eastern Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting FinSec. And thank you to everyone who would have contributed to this evening's community consultation. Minister Clark, your message about green industries, circular infrastructure, and stronger partnerships really reminds us that sustainability isn't just about preserving the environment, it is about transforming how we live, produce, and consume. The call to rethink how we deal with waste challenges us to see opportunity where we once saw disposal. Minister Henderson, your emphasis on collaboration, visibility, and community empowerment speaks directly to the kind of tourism transformation we need. One that is inclusive, resilient, and driven by local participation. The increase in visitor spending from 2022 to 2024 is proof that our strategy of investing in people, products, and partnerships is working. Minister Duggins, it is encouraging to hear that the goal for 2026 God's Spear is to continue building the sector, making the creative economy a real platform for economic success, where talent becomes livelihood and innovation fuels opportunity. The continued empowerment of our creative sector is indeed a powerful step toward a more dynamic and inclusive economy, and I thank you all for your contributions. I now invite the Acting Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, to close us out.
Thank you very much, Director Sharima. Let me thank you for the work that you are doing. I recognize everyone who are here with me. On my right, the Acting FinSec, Mr. Paxson, Honorable Marsha Henderson, Honorable Samuel Duggins, and Honorable Joy Clark. And in the audience, you have Honorable Attorney General, Honorable Garth Wilkin, all of our permanent secretaries who are here, our Accountant General, our Head of Civil Service, Ministry of Finance staff, the hard-working staff in the Ministry of Finance, all of the invited guests and the communities who came out this evening, I say to you, thank you for coming and a pleasant good evening. As we bring this evening's consultation to a close, let us reflect on the powerful conversation we've shared under the theme, Turning Conversations into Action, Building a Sustainable Island State Together. Today or this evening was not just about a dialogue, it was about shaping the future of our nation through collective insight, innovation, and commitment. We extend our deepest appreciation to our distinguished presenters, my colleagues. The report we heard, ladies and gentlemen, is just a synopsis of 3 years of hard work. And I'm certain that many of you were saying in your mind, all of this in 3 years? Yes, we are all working. Honorable Joy L. Clark, who of course illuminated the path towards a circular economy, a very comprehensive presentation, reminding us that sustainability is not a choice, it is a necessity, and we must, as a people, recycle and reuse, paying attention to what we do with our waste, and of course she reminded us of many opportunities of making money from our waste. Honorable Marsha Henderson, whose vision for tourism continues to elevate our island's global presence. She must be especially commended for the Stars of the Seas first call to St. Kitts, a milestone that marks a new chapter in our tourism journey. Well done, sister. In our presentation, ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that the minister's plan is to ensure, and of course with the support of the government, to ensure that tourism is resilient, becomes year-long, and of course is community-driven. Honorable Samuel Duggins, who championed the creative economy, inspiring us to harness the power of culture, talent, and innovation as engines of growth. He highlighted great achievements and investment of this government and the impact that is felt as a result. The creative economy, he said, bringing life once more back into our communities. And of course, he's given an opportunity to artists to turn tradesmen and women, ensuring that they make good money as entrepreneurs. And a lot of this, has been done through the training and financial assistance from his ministry. Thanks to all 3 ministers for their presentation. A heartfelt thank you goes out to the Ministry of Finance, whose tireless efforts make consultations like this possible. Led by our dedicated Acting Financial Secretary, Mr. Carlton Paxson. The team's commitment to transparency and inclusion is a backbone of our budgetary process. To every citizen who asked questions, sought clarification, and shared ideas, your voice matters. Your contributions have been noted and will be carefully considered as we finalize the national budget. This is your budget, your future, and your island. Let us leave here not just informed, but empowered. Let us continue to build together a resilient and sustainable island state where conversation leads to action and action leads to transformation. Thank you, safe journey, and may God continue to bless our federation. And I also bring you greetings from the Honorable Prime Minister. I know he's on, he's actually listening. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and get home safely. God bless you.
Sisa is all of we, yeah. Sisa is you, Sisa is me. Sisa is us, Sisa is all of we. Yo, from sunshine to pure clean energy, we are building a future sustainably. Water flowing and food growing, St. Kitts and Nevis, Sisa we embracing. We are building homes for our sustainability to bring brighter days and a stronger economy. Healthcare for everyone, join the movement, transform our islands. Sisa is you, Sisa is me. Sisa is us, Sisa is all of we.
With Sisa, we are stronger and free. Yes, Sisa is all of we. Let's strive to make sustainability the motto for our country.
Sisa is you, Sisa is me. Sisa is us, Sisa is all of we. sustainably. Water flowing and food growing. St. Kitts and Nevis, CISA we embracing. We are building homes for our sustainability to bring brighter days and a stronger economy. Healthcare for everyone. Join the movement, transform our islands. CISA is you. CISA is me. CISA is us. CISA is all are we.
With CISA, we are stronger and free. Yes, CISA is all are we. Let's strive to make sustainability the motto for our country.